Hello and welcome to the Revolutionary Femme Experiential Masterclass, Experiential Akashic Record Masterclass. I am so excited. So there's just a few people still coming on, which is great. Hey, Leanne. I know there was Candace had reached out. She said she might be a few minutes late. I know there's a few people that want to make it, but of course the replay will be available. Now my camera's done something funny. Come on. Okay, it won't let me. Oh, whatever. It's not giving me the full screen view, which is fine. It just means I kind of have to squint. All right. So welcome to the Revolutionary Femme Experiential Akashic Record Masterclass. I'm so excited to be sharing this. So today is kind of a playful exploration of the Akashic field and the Akashic records. We're absolutely going to dive into that. Some of you will know me, of course, and some of you will be new to this work. And so I'm going to just take a brief moment and introduce myself, my body of work, and then I'll talk a little bit around who is and what is the Revolutionary Femme and what the Akashic records are, what the Akashic field is, the approach that I have developed working within the Akashic records and the Akashic field. And I want to give you that experiential guided journey through the Akashic field. This is one of my favorite things to facilitate. There's so many layers of wisdom and healing available in the Akashic field and in the Akashic records, and they are two different layers. They're two different layers. For a long time, so here we go. I'm going to share a little bit about me. For a long time, when I worked with the Akashic records, and I've been working with the Akashic records now for 11 years. So I discovered the Akashic records when I was on my own evolutionary woman's path. I was in this space where my old life was not feeling like it was a fit anymore. And I had a huge soul level desire to stretch, to grow, expand, and embody more freedom as a woman in my life. And we made a pretty big move from the city to the country. That was, that's where I was being called. And it was shortly after there, probably about a year after, I knew I wanted to work very deeply with women, like really understanding, what was purpose, what was soul, even what was beauty in the context of soul and purpose. And to me, they actually really intimately connect in together. And I found the Akashic records, and that was the major tool that I started working with. And at that time, I didn't have an understanding of what the Akashic field was or how to access it. The method that I was using was actually pretty methodical. It was actually pretty like step by step. And it was like you read the Akashic records for someone and you could clear the Akashic records, and then they would kind of like go about their life and have changes, right, to accelerate their soul level path. Absolutely. But for me, as a deep space holder, as a wisdom keeper, as someone who really wanted to hold deep space for transformation, I really wanted women to have these spaces of love, to be able to feel safe in claiming what it was that they wanted, and claiming whatever the next leg of their evolutionary journey was. And that method of working with the Akashic records, and it was amazing because it opened me up to the power of the Akashic records. And we see a lot of Akashic record readers in the online world, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But for me, I really wanted to create something that went a lot deeper, that really held space in a way where women could recalibrate from the inside out in a much deeper way. And so as I started working with the Akashic Records, and now it's been 11 years, and I've worked with women from all over the world and journeyed with women through all kinds of different life transformations as they claimed the next level of their evolutionary journey. The Akashic Records are they are considered the planet's deepest healing tool for a reason. So that is I'm going to get into, the Akashic Records a little bit more, the Akashic field a little bit more. But when we're talking about soul level evolution, when we're talking about women, at this really potent time with the divine feminine awakening on the planet and which within each one of us, the Akashic Records are a brilliant soul level tool because so many women are rising up and they are stretching beyond their lineage, their ancestry, right? We're pioneering and we're stepping beyond, for so many women, we're stepping beyond the lineage, beyond the box of society that we were often raised in. We're stepping into more of our own evolution. There's something else that I want to say, but it's not swinging around. Anyways, more of our own evolution. And the Akashic Records are a brilliant soul level tool that both clear and untangle what does not serve our evolutionary journey in a really beautiful and efficient way. So anyways, that's 10 years of I've been working with the Akashic Records for 10 years, and I've, over the course, created many different bodies of work, transformational journeys, both private and group. And about 3 years ago, or even maybe getting closer to 4 now, I created the Flower of Life Akashic Healing Method. And I've actually had women certify from, and I've not really technically counted from like how many countries from all over the world, but I've had women certify from all over the world. And it is often, the deep heart-centered soul level work that many women are craving. They're really craving, and especially women who are maybe, traveling from more of a there's probably a better word, but like a standard kind of like coaching background. This is a very deep body of work. And it oftentimes, and I've had, different women like money coaches. I've actually had psychotherapists. I've had massage therapists, hypnotherapists, wisdom keepers, spiritual teachers, and women in this place of the beginning stages of their awakening journey, find this path of facilitation and healing. And it often is that heart-centered, deep space holding that they really crave. And it's often a really beautiful opening for the next leg of their own evolutionary path as well. So that's a little bit about the body of work and a little bit about the method that I work with. So as I was saying, I worked with the Akashic Records, and over the years it grew. And I started to understand there was another layer that I could access called the Akashic field. And again, I'll talk about that in a little bit. And that is a method that's really unique to me. I'm sure there's other people on the planet doing it, absolutely. But for me, it wove in another layer, another dimension that was really beautiful in how I could hold space for a woman's evolutionary journey. So if you're here or if you're catching the replay, most likely there is a soul level calling. There would be, we're all on this evolutionary journey, especially if we're on this path of feminine awakening, of embodying more of the woman that we are being called to be. And, the reason this masterclass is called Revolutionary Femme is because it really is this devotion and this willingness to travel into the depth of the woman that we are being called to be, and to look at where our edge is in terms of our own expression and in terms of our own evolution. And to me, that is the revolutionary femme. So there's that invitation right there. And this again is where the Akashic Records are so potent. To make sure my fire is still on, because we're not in the warm temperatures here yet. It's coming. And that is the revolutionary femme. And this is also where the Akashic Records are so brilliant, because it's both our divine nature and the essence of our feminine expression that wants to take up, that desires to take up more space in the physical world. So when we have soul level tools, we are able to, and get to the deepest layer of clearing and healing, we're able to accelerate our journey. We're able to accelerate our evolutionary journey. Right. And this is important too, because everything is starting to move a little bit faster. And don't get me wrong, I love deep spaces. I love slow. I love integration. I love spaces of being and dreaming. Like that's definitely a core part of my work and how I love to space hold. But in terms of the bigger picture, when we're working with the Akashic Records and what is accessible to us in our revolutionary femme journey, the Akashic Records accelerate our soul level path in a really beautiful way. It's very efficient and easy to start to untangle and clear everything that does not serve both our feminine evolution and the grounding of more of our divinity here in the physical experience. So this is sometimes something that we have to experience. I totally get that. But it's not uncommon for women to show up in my world and in my space. And, after 1 or 2 sessions, they're experiencing a type of movement and healing that they haven't experienced oftentimes before. And these are women who have usually, done a lot of healing work and acquired a lot of tools, right? They're at a place of almost mastery. So, and they're getting really quick, efficient movement in the containers that I'm holding with the Akashic Records as an ally. And it's beautiful because so much oftentimes on our soul level path that we are cleaning and clearing up in this physical experience is rooted not just present lifetime, but often past lifetime, right? And so when we can get to the very deepest level, the level of soul, which the Akashic Records are the level of soul, we're able to untangle and clear and shift and heal and realign very, very quickly. And also, the Akashic Records are beautiful with ancestral healing work and generational healing work. So there's several different timelines that you can work with in the Akashic Records. All right, I'm going to take a little pause and I'm going to see where I want to move to next. And also, if you have any questions and if you're catching the replay, I'm going to post the replay in the She Rose Revolutionaries Facebook group at the top. So if you do have any questions, you can just post below as you're watching. All good. So I talked a little bit about feminine trauma in the marketing, in some of the pieces that I was sharing, and the wounded. Well, where do I want to go with this? And the wounded aspect of the feminine that can often keep us feeling disempowered. So there's this invitation in this space to, one, look at who is that woman that you're being called to be? Who is that woman? Where is your revolutionary femme edge? Where is that? Who are you being called to be? Where are you desiring to experience more freedom in your own expression, through your own business, in your own relationships, through how you show up in the world, through what you're wearing, right? Your authentic voice. Those are all those are all pieces of the edge of our revolutionary femme expression, right? And this gets to be a really fun, cyclical journey into more and more of the woman that we were born to be. When we move into the Akashic field, which we'll do shortly, when we move into the Akashic field, I'm going to introduce you to the quantum woman. And this is a really fun way to start to recalibrate to the divine soul level blueprint without it getting really technical. A really, really fun transmission. So I'm going to dive into that in just a moment. But let's just talk a little bit about feminine trauma. So, for me, when I'm working with clients, I can actually feel where feminine trauma is sitting in the body. I can feel sometimes even at like a cellular level where we're holding on to feminine trauma. And if we think about the history of the feminine on the planet, so the history of the feminine on the planet has been one of suppression. And I don't even like referring to it like that, because the feminine is rising and she is so powerful. But oftentimes, as we're accessing more of our empowered femme or our revolutionary femme, right? She's starting to awaken. She's wanting to take up more space in our world. We're starting to access more and more of her power. We're starting to connect to more and more of where she's leading us into pleasure, right? And there's always that edge of whatever that looks like for us. And generally at the edge, right? And our edge of like receiving, right? And that ties back to pleasure again. And usually at the edge is where we start to pull back, right? We pull back because there's layers of healing. There's layers of clearing. And that's often where there's not evidence, but that's often where we can sense, or where I can sense when I'm working with clients, and sometimes we can sense on our own, where we have a layer of trauma that has yet to be worked through. And if we look at the history of the feminine, and again, going back, 5,000 years and the history, the suppression of the feminine, if we go back 5,000 years, and how that actually started to create distortion and separation, and that the suppression of the feminine, it existed collectively and it existed within each one of us. And it's the same now, right? We're starting to see this awakening on the planet, and part of that healing happens within us, each one of us, right? But there was a separation from the true power of the divine feminine within and in the collective. And there was a lot of distortion and illusion around that. And there was also a lot of threat, right? So for a woman to access the full range of her feminine power, she would have often pushed up against the patriarchal consciousness. So that could have been felt through the church. That could have been felt through speaking truth and the core collective feminine wound of the witch, right? That's a really great example of feminine trauma. And that could be felt through, there's so many layers to this, but like even part of the role of mother, right? And how part of the suppression of the feminine within the role of mother was one of just giving and doing and placing the needs of the family and the masculine ahead of her own. And it disempowered the voice and the energy and the presence and the power of the mother in the home. Right. So we can feel that suppression, and we can see that suppression and how that created a ripple effect forward that we are now starting to, heal. Right. And so again, this is where the Akashic Records can be a beautiful, beautiful tool. And here's why. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the Akashic Records now and a little bit about the Akashic field. And then we're going to dive in. We're going to dive in for an experiential journey. I have to remember to drink lots of water. So the Akashic Records, and this is something that I go very deep into, the Flower of Life Akashic certification program. And I'm going to kind of condense it and give a shorthand version because they are so powerful and so magical. And I believe we are just starting to understand the power of the Akashic Records in all different kinds of ways. And that it's much more vast and much more complex and much more multi-layered than the way that we see it than the way that we've been doing it up until now. So the Akashic Records are an ancient source of love, wisdom, and healing. The Akashic Records existed as a vibrational field of information, and it existed before any of the physical experience that you see now, and before any of this existed, even on the planet. It's an ancient source of wisdom and healing. And it records this beautiful invisible field of information. It records, and it has recorded every choice, every thought, every feeling, every experience that has ever been made. And so every soul has its own Akashic record. It has its own vibrational field of information that has recorded all of our own choices, experience, thoughts, and feelings along our own soul path. And our own soul path has often been much older than this current physical experience. So as souls in any experience where we've traveled along our soul path, we always have available to us choice. And a lot of times the experiences that get recorded in the Akashic record, which is considered the level of soul, it's a fifth dimensional library, which is also the level of soul. Okay, so hopefully you're keeping up with me. I'm sure you are. And when we travel along our soul path, we have access to choice, and we have access to positive choice, and we have access to negative choice. So, and we do this, we make choices. And when we make choices that aren't congruent with our divine nature and our divine power, the Akashic records record that as a block. They record it as a memory in the Akashic record because we've made a negative choice, right? And it's just a negative choice is just a choice that doesn't honor our true divine nature and power, our true sovereignty, and the grounding of heaven on earth. And so there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, because we can learn through negative choices often just as much, and sometimes more, than positive choices. And the Akashic records are so beautiful. For one, when a soul is really ready to move forward from the experience or the energetic consequences of a negative choice, we can go in with the Akashic records and very accurately pinpoint at the very root what block is showing up, creating what pattern in our own life or in our client's life. We can go to the very deepest root and we can clear it in one session. And it opens up vital life force energy, and it opens up space at the subconscious, cellular, and soul level, right? For new choices to be made that honor our desires, our evolution, and the new experience that we desire to create for ourselves. So that's just kind of like, I'm trying to break it down in a really simplified way. Now, oftentimes when I'm working with women, traveling their evolutionary path, and they're feeling the call into the next leg of their expression, we're clearing out layers and lifetimes of, feminine trauma, like experiences and negative choices that have been made. in previous incarnations. We're also oftentimes working on, some of their feminine lineage, even their, their paternal lineage, and oftentimes the generational aspect. So we're doing a lot of inner child work. So feminine trauma. So with the Akashic Records, oftentimes, a woman says yes to her soul, whatever the next leg of her evolution is. And oftentimes, it can be frustrating because we're like bumping up against the old. It's like, why am I not moving forward? Where is why does this seem to feel like wading through crud? And the Akashic Records, again, are brilliant at untangling that so that we can move forward with a lot more alignment, a lot more clarity, and a lot more ease and embodiment. So when I'm working with clients and the method that I teach, we're looking at what is coming up for clearing to support the desires, the next level evolution of the soul, the next kind of evolution of the experience and the embodiment of her essence. Naturally, what happens is we start to pull up and clear what no longer serves that. And so we travel back to these past experiences where, yes, there have been negative choices made, but also it's the experience that's often held, the pain and the trauma of the experience that the soul has went through. And oftentimes when I'm working with women on an evolutionary path, she's bumping up against those layers of trauma, right? Which keep us kind of pulling back in fear, right? In fear and hesitation and doubt, or however the trauma is showing up. But when we go back into the memory, when we go back into the past lifetime, we're untangling the blocks made, and we're also starting to kind of bring forth the emotion of the experience. And so it's so very often as I'm sharing, what the experience was and what choice was made, a woman will feel that the core essence of that in the scope of her own experience, only it's kind of like on replay. It's on replay because at soul level, she has carrying a vibrational block that keeps recreating or attracting the experience and the choice point from a past experience. Now, the Akashic Records, a lot of people believe that they are held fifth dimensionally, and that they believe that the Akashic Records are held out there. But actually, the Akashic Records are also held at the level of the body. The Akashic Records are held at the cellular level, at the subconscious and soul level. So this is where Akashic Record work becomes very, very deep. And when we're working with the Akashic Records in a very intentional and and let's see if I can flip that up there. There's a call coming up. A very intentional and very deep way, we're able to, one, clear out the energetic residue. We're able to release whatever the trauma imprint is that's surfacing. And oftentimes, that requires a little bit of being in the feeling body. And we're able to assist our clients in recalibrating, or even yourself in recalibrating to the next level of your evolution. And of course, that happens step by step. And this is where the embodiment piece with Akashic Record work, I believe, often gets missed, right? So if we're clearing out at the level of the soul, the subconscious, the cellular, the body aspect, beautiful, right? There's a real opportunity to ground more fully the beauty of our feminine essence, right? And that often exists at the level of body, right? Embodiment, that often exists at the level of body. And so I think it's always amazing when we can do the clearing work and we can be in the space of the Akashic field and the Akashic Records and recalibrate to the next level of where our revolutionary femme essence is desiring to expand into, but also to look at how to become more fully embodied in the woman that we are desiring to become. And that's where we're really facilitating deep embodied soul level transformation that continues to accelerate the journey forward. All right. The Akashic field, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to ease us into this experiential journey. And I'm going to pour myself some more water. So as I guide us into some of what I'm going to be guiding us into, the process that I've developed, I love to be able to drop myself in and whoever I am guiding into a space of presence. One, because that's where we start to come into a space of the beauty of our essence and the naturalness of the power of our presence. And that's where the healing the feminine and empowering the feminine begins. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that through the visualization and meditation. And then I'm going to open us up to the Akashic field. And I do like to just kind of tune in and just see where everything wants to land in the Akashic field. And I'm going to guide us into this experience with the Quantum Queen. We're going to talk a little bit about clearing work, and there's multiple ways to do that. And we'll look at grounding it all to support your evolution, to support your revolutionary femme. All right, at the very end, so for anyone on the call, but anyone watching the replay, I am going to make an invitation to the Flower of Life Akashic Certification Program. So the doors are open. Open ceremony is on next Wednesday. We have a beautiful group of women joining. This is a 9-week foundation level certification program where you can step out, you can certify, you can begin taking one-on-one clients, you can package together your sessions, and you can use this for your own evolutionary journey. It is one part personal transformation, one part certification. The entire certification can be used towards the Advanced Akashic Women Guide 4.5-month certification program that contains all 3 levels. So the investment for that when it runs in the fall can be used towards that. So just to kind of drop this in case I forget. All right, so Akashic field, then we're going to sink in. And give me one sec. I just want to keep an eye on the time. Oh, we're good. We're really good. Okay. Great. Okay. So the Akashic field is a field that I like to open into before I access the Akashic Records. And then the Akashic Records exist in the Akashic field. The Akashic field is a beautiful high frequency field, I feel, of love, wisdom, healing, and creative possibility. It feels very much to me just like the Divine Mother and like Shakti energy kind of like rolled into one. And it speaks. It speaks, and there is a wisdom and an intelligence to it, and you can use the Akashic field in a variety of ways. It's naturally healing the moment that we move into it. It is a subtle vibration, but a high frequency of love. So when we access the Akashic field, that subtle vibration will start to clear and lift out lower, dense, heavier emotions. And it will amplify our connection to our body wisdom, to connection to our higher self, and just with our access to our wisdom in general. And so to me, it's like this beautiful field, this kind of intelligent web where there's a communication that starts to happen. And there's many ways that we can work in the Akashic field. There's oftentimes when I'm accessing the Akashic field, to me, it's very, very shamanic and very felt sense. And, sometimes I will have different beings in the Akashic field, depending on how or who I'm working with. And it is an invaluable tool for me and my clients, we're working one-on-one with deep space holding. It is another really beautiful and powerful layer. Okay, so let's go ahead and we can sink in. So if that feels good to you, we can sink in. And also, I'm going to go ahead and close my eyes and drop my chin. And you're invited to do that if that feels good for you. And I'm going to take some more water. All right. So just noticing in your environment, noticing what you notice in your environment, any sounds, any sense. Notice the temperature of your body. Notice the temperature of the room. And with that, let's go ahead and bring our focus to our bodies and to our breath. And most women are, not most, but well, probably most in the grand scale of things due to feminine trauma, right? We're not fully anchored in our body because our body holds the trauma. And as we ground more fully into the embodied expression of our essence, she begins to fill up those little spaces where trauma once existed. And often the trauma exists at the level of the body and often the lower chakras of the body. So sinking into this beautiful space, there's that invitation to be present with your body, which can be hard if if we feel a bit disembodied. So even just bringing or rubbing the palm of your hand onto your thigh and just bringing your awareness and your focus back to the body. And that's one of the things we're doing is we clear out what no longer serves the evolution of the feminine so that she can drop more fully into the vessel, into her channel, and to ground more of her expression. So taking a breath in through the nose and down into the belly, and then up and out through the mouth. And we'll do that breath 2 more times, bringing it to the count of 3. And we're just going to start to let our body weight drop and drop and drop until we feel fully held by the beauty of Mother Earth. Just allowing ourselves to begin to drop into our back body. So just any place that we have focus or attachment throughout maybe today or even last week or throughout the next week, let's just go ahead and for the time being, pull all of that right to the present moment. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and call down the temples of divine love, light, truth, abundance, wisdom, and power to descend, grow, and expand around us, calling in our guides, masters, angels, teachers, goddesses, guardians, ancestors to be present, and for truth and accuracy to be obtained for the highest good of each woman here listening to this, and for each woman who will listen to this in the future, asking this to be a divinely protected space where only the highest frequencies of love and light shall exist, banishing any negative influences, should there be any. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Let's go ahead and bring our focus to the energetic womb space. So it's located about 2 inches below the belly button. Seeing that fill up with a delicious golden honey-like energy. And then let's go ahead and see that swish, swirl, cleanse, clear, activating, bringing that down through the pelvic bowl, down through yoni, down through all the layers of earth and crust and soil and root and rock, right down to the core of Mother Earth. And we're going to go ahead and anything that we've been holding at the level of womb, just kind of releasing it into the core of Mother Earth. Taking a breath in through the nose and down into the energetic womb space. And up and out through the mouth. Now that cord that we dropped down to the core of Mother Earth, let's go ahead and attach that around a piece of jade crystal. And let's let our body weight drop just a little bit more. Okay, knowing that Mama Earth's got our back, we're being held, it's safe to drop in. So we're going to go ahead and bring now our focus to the heart space, located at the center of the chest. And we can go ahead and see a magenta rose bloom open. And from there, we're going to go ahead and see the golden grid of the flower of life begin to expand and swirl out from the heart center, located at the center of the chest. We're going to let that pure wisdom and high frequency light, the radiant divine substance of all of creation that's interwoven into all of life, begin to permeate and infuse itself within us, out from us, and all around us into the Akashic field. We're going to let that light continue to grow, expand, and interpermeate with the physical and non-physical reality that exists before us, all around us, and within us. Continuing to let that flower flow and expand from the heart chakra. We're going to see, sense, feel now as the doors to the Akasha and all the light, love, and wisdom of the Akasha open to us now. And so it is. So as I'm tuning in, there's messages around flow, play, fun, magic, pleasure, a lot of the qualities and characteristics of the feminine. And there's this beautiful being. So this is an example of one of the beings that can sometimes come into the field of a angel slash fairy. I don't know what exactly. She's like quite light and quite feminine, and she's got wings, and she also has like a wand, and there's this like invitation to be in our own feminine magic, right? Your own, the beauty of your own feminine essence, which, you know, that's like such a big part of like allowing the unique essence of who we are as women, the beauty that is unique to us to shine out into the world, and to be able to do it in a way that feels playful and pleasurable and fun and magical and light, right? And so we can either that can either kind of sometimes again feel or be suppressed due to some of our own wounded masculine conditioning. So, this is another beautiful way where, and a little bit more of an advanced piece of my work, but where we can start to untangle and reharmonize those two different aspects to create space for the feminine, because she truly is here to lead. She's here to lead. And one of the reasons that suppression has existed is because of how powerful she is. And when she wants to lead through play, pleasure, flow, fun, magic, sometimes what can happen is it gets a little bit tangled up in some of the wounded masculine aspects, where the wounded masculine, and sometimes in our own awareness, will show up as more of the controller, the dominator, the suppressor aspect, and kind of smother and limit and kind of tangle up into the way that the feminine desires to move and flow and take up space in the world. So that seems to be kind of a really beautiful message that wants to come through. And so just being present with that and just like letting that land in your body, whatever that feels like, however that feels. But there's this real invitation into playfulness and fun and magic and pleasure. Okay, so we'll see where this goes. I want to channel a little bit, guide a little bit, clear a little bit. and embody a little bit. And that's basically kind of the circle of transformation that I often facilitate, whether it's in a single session or whether it's in a larger transformation. So I am seeing a woman at the very beginning of her path, and this could be the next leg of your own evolutionary path. And it is a spiral. And I find that, when we move through a cycle of transformation that is embodied and complete, it's always beautiful. And I love to celebrate. And I also love to be able to experience the joy of being in that too, right? Because it takes devotion to be able to show up for what we desire, to be able to show up through transformation. Transformation itself requires change, and it's alchemy. We're moving from one vibrational state to another, right? And as much as it can be magical, fun, playful, and pleasurable, there is often a valley to it, right? That's where we're hitting some of the edge of like our own trauma, right? Those are the pieces that it's like, oh my gosh, this feels terrible. What's showing up right now? I do not want to do this. And we can shorten that path with tools, right? And deep space holding, having someone space hold for us, being able to space hold for someone else. It allows us to drop in more fully and to accelerate and to do it much more quickly than having to do it alone and getting stuck or kind of slugging it out in the valley. So I'm seeing this path and I just want to see where this all wants to go. And there is a gate and there is this sense of permission. So if you're watching this now, if you're watching the replay, it's like, where are you desiring more? That desire is the language of the feminine soul. So we talk about shifting states, and this is one of the things that we talk about, even in the certification program, shifting from one vibrational state to another. But it all begins with desire, right? It all begins with desire. And so there's this sense of the gate, but there's not a lot of movement. It's like the gate's there and it's like, should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? And there's this message of like permission. Like, why not? Like, that's your birthright, is to evolve. It's your birthright to experience more freedom in the woman that you were born to be, right? It's your birthright to feel more pleasure, to take up more space with your voice and your expression. Okay, so wherever it is that you're being nudged to step forward in your own evolutionary journey, maybe it is just claiming your desires. And sometimes the first step towards more of our soul level evolution, into more of our revolutionary feminine edge, can feel daunting because it is the unknown, right? It is the unknown, but our desires and what we want as women, that is our compass. That's our compass, and it's never going to lead us astray. Like, our desires are meant for us, and the universe and the divine wants to support us in having our desires met. So sometimes for women traveling the revolutionary or evolutionary path, really what it is that we're often hitting up against too, on sometimes in layers of our own transformational process of becoming more embodied, of having those desires, is worthiness, right? Is like, how worthy am I? Who am I to have that? Do I deserve to have that? And I find so much of what it is that we're opening up to and into through the evolutionary journey is going deeper in our relationship to self and in our ability to love ourselves more fully. Right. And it's like, when we do that, when we can feel into and around and through the edge of worthiness and self-love, we expand our capacity to receive what it is that we are desiring for ourselves. And it's so often that the way will start to open and we're starting to let in more money, more pleasure, like more depth of intimacy, more freedom in our expression, more ease, and just the way that like money gets to show up for us. But that can often be a layer and an edge in our healing, right? And in fact, I find that very often is the edge. So this is something that I want to deepen into because it's so present. And I just feel like this is kind of like, it's like the rose. It's like the rose, and like where we can go deeper into like our own self-sourced relationship with love, that exists between who we are as divine feminine women and our relationship with the divine. And as we go deeper into that, it's like another petal of the rose blooms open. And in the meantime, it's like we're kind of going in and we're clearing out like the layers of crud so that we can expand into more of the woman that we're being called to be. I'm trying to tie this into the beautiful analogy of the rose. So blossoming into more of the woman that you were born to be. But I wanted to weave this piece in with the quantum woman. And so I'm not even sure now if that's relevant, because there's definitely this piece around self-worth that I want to feel into. So let's do it like this. We all have this woman inside of us. We all have a powerful woman inside of us. We all do. And we often forget. And this is another one of the brilliant tools, because part of what we're upgrading as we step into more of our evolutionary embodiment, whatever that is our self-image, our identity, and all the stories and beliefs and patterns and karmic residue that we have attached to that. And so, where was I going with this? Just one moment. I just totally lost my train of thought. Okay, let me land back in here and see where this wants to flow. Oh, we all have that beautiful, powerful self inside of us, right? And when we're on this evolutionary journey, it is about seeing ourselves in a new way, about this new relationship, this new internal foundation that we are creating as we're rising into this next leg of our expression. And again, where the Akashic Records are so beautiful at tingling out a lot of what doesn't serve, this updated self-image and this new internal foundation that we're creating. So let's go ahead, and here we can introduce the quantum woman. And this is an archetypal or an avatar that I like to work with in the Akashic field. And it just gives us a way to communicate with our higher self and the records to get a visual interpretation of the truth of who we are, both our starseed lineage and our ancestry, and all of the beauty and the wisdom that comes into play within that one avatar that really weaves in and magnifies our unique gifts, wisdom, power, essence, right? It's like, it's all of our unique archetypal energies that make us us right at the foundational level. And so she can be a beautiful avatar, and it might take, 1 or 2 or 3 cycles through our own evolutionary journey to really embody her fully. It could take, a couple lifetimes to really embody her fully. But she is that reminder of the truth of who we are, because we can get so lost in the projections of others. And especially when we're talking about the suppression of the feminine, because it still exists. There's still an undervaluing and a disconnect of true feminine expression and power. But when we can use tools like this, and this is something that is woven into what I teach, we can use tools like this, we can realign to a deeper truth of who we are as powerful women. So going ahead, and you can close your eyes, and let's just see how this wants to come through. And I'm just going to go ahead and just really set that intention that our higher selves come through. And I'm going to ask that our Akashic records now be open. So the Akashic record of each woman on the call now, each woman who will be listening to this call in the future. And if that speaks to you, you can just simply say yes. Okay, so go ahead and see yourself kind of like walking out on a dock. And there's a beautiful, like, ancient lake. I'm seeing like mountains and an ancient lake. And you can go ahead and you're going to walk down the dock. And there's like sunset, and everything is so very still. And you're walking down this dock. And as you get to the end of the dock, you're going to go ahead and you're just going to start to kind of gaze in the water. You're just gazing in the water. And as you start to gaze in the water, it starts to bubble. There's like steam and bubble, and you're kind of like, I'd be wondering what the heck is going on. And there's this light that kind of comes down like from the sky, this like beautiful light. And it has all of these beautiful gold codes coming down into the water. And up starts to emerge your quantum woman. So this is the woman, this is your beautiful, powerful self, right? Containing all your unique archetypal energies and codes, your divine soul level blueprint, your ancestral wisdom, your starseed wisdom, and she emerges from the water. She emerges from the water and she's standing there, hovering over the water. And just taking a moment to take her in. Taking a moment to take her in. How is she showing up for you? What qualities are present? How are you sensing her wisdom and her gifts? How are you seeing her unique expression? Maybe the way she's dressed and her sacred adornment, there's symbols that really capture your essence, your ancient wisdom. Just noticing what you notice about her. And you kind of take a few steps back on the dock and she lands in front of you. And so you can use this, is so beautiful, to even ask questions, right? Or to just realign, right? At the deepest level to the truth of who you are. We have a visitor. Now think about the gifts and the purpose and the potential and the power and the beauty of everything that she is, and what a gift that expression is to the world, right? How healing her presence is, how needed it is, right? I mean, I'm sure that she's not telling us to not believe in that we're worthy and deserving of having what we want. So when it feels ready, going ahead and just pulling her into your body. She's accessible at any time, but pulling her into your body, that beautiful gold light comes back down from the heavens. And if you want to receive this, just like allowing all those golden codes, the ancient and future remembering of the truth of who you are, the activation of the next level of your revolutionary Femme remembering, right? Just allowing yourself to just receive, right? At the subconscious cellular level. Beautiful. I'm just going to go ahead and check the time, 12 o'clock. Okay, so there are many ways to clear out. So, right at the kind of like, right at the, where am I trying to, I can feel it, but I just want to get the words right. At the deepest layer, right? There's like this gap between what we desire often, and this is the beginning leg of the journey, what we desire and the woman that we know that we were born to be, this, powerful version of ourselves. And then in between is all the stuff, the gunk, right? That we want to like clear out. As we clear it out though, we're taking micro steps to become more fully embodied in her. And so right here in this space, there's this invitation to clear, to get to the root or a layer of the root of the unworthiness piece. And I'm going to go ahead and look at what that is. And when we're doing clearing work, there's simple ways to do deep clearing work. And then there's a whole other kind of like very specific way of targeting and pinpointing blocks, which, which is really very, very powerful in terms of the pinpointing and bringing into our awareness what specifically is keeping us from accessing more of our embodied feminine power. But here in this space, I am going to look at, a simplified way of pulling up what's around this worthiness piece. So just give me a moment here and I'm going to fill into this. Well, immediately I'm picking up a pattern for one. And I'm just going to talk to the guides or guardians. So is there anything connected to this pattern? Okay. So I'm picking up a pattern, and the pattern is that it's like about giving ourselves, it's easier to give ourselves away than to honor and commit to what it is that we truly want. And that ties into oftentimes self-image. It's like who are you as the woman who doesn't sacrifice, who doesn't give herself away, who says yes to the level of soul, to what she desires, to more energy, to more pleasure, to more fun, play, magic, all of those pieces, right? Who are you to be that, which you are definitely that woman? Where can you give yourself permission? But I almost get this sense of it's a pattern, right? And it's an energetic pattern. And with an energetic pattern, that may have been created at a certain point along our timeline to keep us safe, right? It was like easier to like put somebody else's needs, wants, or priorities above our own, because then we wouldn't have to place a boundary, which can be really uncomfortable sometimes, depending on some of the trauma that we may have around that. So this pattern is sitting at the first chakra, second chakra, third chakra, for heart chakra. Yeah, it's sitting at the heart chakra. So think about where you have, in subtle ways or big ways, given yourself away, right, in order to, appease others. And it's a pattern. So it could even just be, that it's like, you don't want to be doing this anymore, right? Because, the way to our own wealth, the way to carve our own path is by honoring ourselves as women, is by being able to say yes to what we want and no to what we don't want. And yes, it's being able to give support to others, but we're doing it in a way that's balanced, where we can be in our own energy, where we're feeling good, where we can provide support, but from a cup that overflows in a way that doesn't take us outside of our own path, our own sense of purpose, right? And the fullness of our own energetic state. So just noticing where that could be a pattern, we're going to clear that pattern. And then I'm seeing again, this woman at the gate. It's a full permission. It's a full permission to say yes to what you want. So it's like next time when you go to sit down at your computer to move your business forward in some way, or to sign up for that class, or to show up more boldly in your voice, or to create space for more nutrition, or to create space for more freedom, whatever it looks like. When there's an invitation from somebody that needs something from you, we're clearing out the energetic pattern, but there is also an invitation to reassess. Does this work for me right now? Does this really work for me right now? Is it going to take me outside of what I know I need to be doing to move my own path forward? So that right there is the kind of the embodiment homework. We have to actually take the physical action step that allows us to ground more fully, right? This new version of ourselves, and to move us forward in the trajectory of our revolutionary feminine path, the way that we desire. Okay. And relationships rebalance from that place. This is part of the path too. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to ask that this pattern that was created, that it now be cleared and destroyed right to the point of creation, backwards and forwards through all spaces, realities, timelines, dimensions, and then it be transmuted to divine love and light, and then released fully back to source. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Okay. Just noticing what you notice about where you're feeling that in your body. Just taking a moment and just taking a few breaths to just meet the energetic residue of what's ready to be cleared and released. I'm actually feeling it a lot in the throat and the chest. I'm going to go a layer deeper and I'm going to talk quickly, very briefly about a pact. I want to look at a pact because patterns aren't necessarily past lifetime blocks. They're often actually present lifetime blocks. And feels like there's an opportunity to go a layer deeper with a pact. And I want to do this because it's an experiential Akashic record masterclass. And pacts are very common in the evolutionary woman's path, because we are essentially looking at where to clear out codependent patterns and step more fully into our own sovereignty, right? That's this journey of grounding heaven on to earth, right? And to really anchoring into a new paradigm of feminine freedom. It's about anchoring into our embodied sovereignty. Probably why we hear this word embodiment over and over and over again. So pacts are relationship agreements that are made for personal gain. And these are very often created past lifetime when we've went through a difficult or traumatic situation. And they show up a lot for women in relationship to other women in past lifetimes. Oftentimes our daughters or sisters or children or our mothers, right? Because of the suppression of the feminine, there can be trauma. And when we move through difficult situations or traumatic situations in a past lifetime experience, or even present lifetime, but if we're looking at a pact, what often happens is that there is it creates insecurity, right? And insecurity, when we don't understand how to self-source our power, we start to lean into another person to have an insecurity met. And it creates entanglement and lopsided relationship dynamics, which make it really hard for us as women traveling the evolutionary path to move forward into more of our sovereignty, into more of our the next leg of our evolutionary journey. So let's briefly look up, and I could spend a lot of time working, with one pact, even just in a session with a client. I'm going to do this quite quickly, just based on the amount of time that we have. And so there is something coming up, and it is around, there's two young girls, and there's an older girl, and then there's a younger girl, and it is like the older sibling kind of took on the role of mother, because there wasn't necessarily a connection with the mother. And sometimes there's not a connection with the mother because she's moving through her own pain in that experience of isolation, of disconnect, whatever it was that maybe she was navigating. But it can create a disconnect with her children. And what happens for two young girls is that they end up leaning on each other for emotional connection and support. Now, when one of the children, present lifetime experience, goes to move forward into more of her evolutionary journey, right? She's like, I desire something different. I'm desiring a different experience in myself. I desire more freedom. I want to create my life powerfully on my terms. There can be the old relationship dynamic of feeling like we have to caretake or be there emotionally for different female relationships. So this is that invitation to just notice in subtle or not so subtle ways where this is playing out in your own current experience. And I love pacts because they always show me where my client is ready to release codependent patterns and relationships or aspect to relationships and move forward. She wants to move forward. but she's getting a little bit caught up in that old relationship dynamic, or feeling like she might leave that person behind, feeling like she might leave that person behind in their own suffering or their own pain. This is really common for women in their female relationships. But what happens when we step forward into more of our healing and more of our evolution and more of our purpose and more of our expression, right? It's the ripple effect. It's the ripple effect of the revolutionary femme, right? When we begin to heal and when we begin to create more space and embody more of the feminine, there is a ripple effect through our own lineage and through our female relationships as well. So in the beginning, when we go to choose ourselves, when we untangle a path like this, it can feel a little bit daunting, like maybe, in some way we're going to leave that person behind, but it becomes important to choose our own purpose and our own evolutionary path. And it gives the other person an opportunity to look at where their own healing can take place to move them forward along their own evolutionary path as a woman, right? Into more joy, into more happiness, into more freedom, into whatever she's desiring. It's so beautiful. And I've seen this play out with sisters, friends, mothers, mothers and daughters. So it can play out in so many different kinds of ways. So I'm going to ask that this pact, and because we're in a bit of a group space, I'm going to make it a little bit more general, but I'm going to ask that this pact please be cleared and destroyed through any timeline, dimension, reality, or space that this is showing up in any woman's Akashic record and at any time. And I'm going to ask that it please be transmuted to divine love and light and then released fully back to source. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. Okay, bringing ourselves back to our body, taking a breath in and just letting that integrate. So these are the ways that I support my clients, that the women certifying through the Flower of Life Akashic certification program are supporting their clients, the work that they're doing on their evolutionary path using the Akashic Records. And I'm going to go ahead. I don't actually have the link in front of me, but I believe it's sacredfeminineprosperity.com/Akashic certification. You can definitely go ahead and take a look if you're watching the replay or if you're on. I'm going to send the replay out as well with information. And I've got something super special that I'm doing for the next 48 hours for the women that catch the replay and that know that this program is speaking to them on some level, whether for their own personal evolution or because they want to weave this process and this tool into the current scope of the work that they're doing, or they desire to be deep space holders for the reemergence and the awakening of the divine feminine on the planet. And basically, that is for the next 48 hours. When you purchase the Flower of Life Akashic Certification Program, you also get my Sacred Program Creation 8-week journey as well. It's a value of $1,000. So you're basically getting it free. And I teach you how to download your own sacred program in the Akashic field and how to put it together, which is a piece I'm super passionate about, being able to take the tools and the body of work that I teach you and turn it into your own magical transformational journey. So that's for the next 48 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close out of the Akashic field. And I know I'm moving quickly, but I don't want to keep anyone longer than what I said. So thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for catching the replay. I'm going to thank the guides, guardians, masters, angels, teachers who have been a part of this experience today. We're going to know that the clarity, healing, intentions, activations, it's all going to unfold into completion for the highest good of each woman listening to this call now, each woman who will be watching this replay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The door between the worlds is now closed, and so it is. So please drink lots of water because it is a transmission. We are working with in a higher dimension, right? There's a lot of energy moving. The clearing work definitely will get energy moving. Get outside if you need to. Take a few moments and just let this integrate. Let your body really receive this. If you have any questions, you can email me, Tara, at tarapreston.com. Oh, yay. That's awesome. And I shall talk to you all soon. Bye for now.